Here we go. Nate Dogg, Warren G. Can I do a little bit of that Tupac that I'm rolling on the room? Go ahead, but we got to go. Watch this song. I wrote this song. It goes. To live and die in London, it's the place to be. You gotta be there to know what you wanna see. To live and die in London, it's the place to be. You gotta be there to know it. Wanna see, yeah. To live and die in London. To live and die in London. We'd like to thank you, Rochester! It's the place to be. You gotta be there to know what you wanna see. To live and die in love. It's the place to be. You gotta be there to know it. Wanna see, yeah. To live and die in love. To live and die in love. We'd like to thank you, Rochester! Somebody say, hell yeah!
America has shown us over and over again exactly what ambition is and what forms ambition should be shown and how ambition can take you to the top. All we doing is putting the mirror up and showing you that yes, we saw it, yes, we got it, and yes, we're doing it. So that's what this video is about.
Let you guys do most of the talking. So,
No doubt.
Speed, you ready? All right, so first of all, just simply explain the concept of the video to me.
What we're trying to do is use intellect while we rapping. So what we wanted to do is, since everybody feel like it's their duty to say how we are portraying gangsters and gangster music and we are dirtying up the airwaves of people's houses with gangster music, we wanted to put the mirror up to show you where we got these gangster ideas. So we took all these scenes out of classic movies with gangsters in it. Not gangsters from Compton or gangsters from Watts, but gangsters from Chicago, and gangsters from New York, and gangsters from Italy. Gangsters, not gangsters named Do Dirty and Snoop and Tupac and the Dads and Corrupt, but gangsters named Lucky Luciano and
Mafioso.
and Tony Corleone and John Gotti, Al Capone and Nitty, all of them.
What is that? You like it? You like it? You like it? Pack in the building. Yeah, I see you, homie. A fistful of dollars, a pit on the collar. Do the knowledge before you come a scholar is the motto. I play the lotto. I like to get a little work out in Colorado, in the Eldorado. Hollow tips for the loose lip that sank ship. Swallow my flip at the pay, come and set trip. Get this bread when I stack up like Tetris. Even though you know conditions of my people hectic, my perspective for the potential within elected credentials for a check instead of arrested. A message to the youth. Y'all got a death wish. I roll up a Philly blunt, then I Buddha blessings. I exit away from hater, cause they reckless. My queen wake up in the morning and make us breakfast. Hit the workload every day for a pension. Get out is the only way that I mention. So many player haters wanna be like us. Real street people, street sweepers a must. Blowing motherfuckers right out of the box. With the mental mind state, the mind frame of pop. So many player haters wanna be like us. So many player haters wanna be like us. So many player haters wanna be like us. What? Real street people still kicking up dust. So many player haters wanna see like us. So many player haters wanna see like us. So many player haters wanna see like us. Red City Kings in the DF dub.
Shane, now Henderson firefighters have asked us not to use their last names because they're concerned about their safety. They're speaking publicly about that night for the first time.
Jim and I did everything that we could and gave him every ample, but the general public doesn't know that.
The shooting death of Tupac Shakur remains unsolved. But 20 years later, Jim and Shane describe an effort to save the 25-year-old man's life. Here at the scene, they stumbled onto.
The chaos, there was a lot of chaos, a lot of cop cars.
Just as we started looking at each other to decide what we were doing, Metro told us to come in. They were waving us to come in.
And then exiting their ambulance.
Somebody met me at the back and said, "Go help my buddy." And my buddy shot in the car. So
which ended up being Suge Knight. The whole car, was riddled with bullet holes.
Death Row Records co-founder Suge Knight was the driver of the BMW Shakur was gunned down in.
We brought the gurney up,
over,
just pulled him out.
Pulled him out, and that's when, everybody was yelling, Tupac.
There was another guy that was shot in the head. Jim and I believe, they walked him over to the ambulance. He got in, and it ended up being Suge Knight who was grazed on the head.
He wanted us to make sure that we took care of Tupac before him.
And then with 3 Metro police officers inside their ambulance and a police escort, not typical protocol.
Because they know the prodigal son has returned. I'm alive. The ghost is walking around. You know what I mean? And I'm alive talking.
Bad situation for me. And I pulled the door open, and when I pulled it open, the guy sitting in the passenger seat, who turns out later to be Tupac, he kind of slumped out, came out with the door. So he's in the car, he's leaning against the door, and as I open the door, he kind of spills out. So he spilled out, and I just kind of grabbed him with one hand, and then I was pointing the gun at Suge with the other, because Suge is still trying to run up to me, and the guy's clearly a threat. He was also just absolutely gushing blood out of the side of his head, but he's acting fine. I mean, he's not incapacitated in any way. He's shooting blood out of his side of his head, and he starts yelling at Tupac, and he's yelling at him, "Pac, Pac," and he just keeps yelling, "Pac." And I can see, then I look down, I can see Tupac is trying to yell back to Suge, and he's just kind of not physically able to do it. And he's kind of, you can see him sort of mouthing, and they're in eye contact with each other. And he's trying to get something out to yell at Suge, and he can't get the words out. But he's still, he's fully conscious. He's moving, he's kind of squirming. And that's when I looked at him, and there was, an extensive amount of blood on him. And I saw that I couldn't tell exactly where it was, but he had clearly had torso wounds, which are, of course, almost always going to be life-threatening. So I realized then this guy has a good possibility of dying. So I looked at him and I said, what happened? Who shot you? Who did this? What's going on? And he's just really just kind of ignoring me. He's not even, even though I'm right there holding him, he's just kind of not acknowledging my presence, and he's trying to yell back at Suge. Well, I turned around at Suge, and that was the first time I noticed. I saw the back of another bike officer, and he was pushing Suge away from me, and that's the first time I realized there's other cops there, so that made me feel a lot better. So he kind of pushes Suge back, and Suge is still yelling, "Pac, Pac." He's trying to yell at him, and then I saw Tupac just, all of a sudden, just in an instant, he went from trying to, kind of squirming, looking at Suge, trying to get the words out, to where you could tell he physically just gave up. He just wasn't able to do it. And he just crossed that line into just quitting and being at peace. And he just kind of laid back and was calm and was no longer looking or trying to do anything. And I could just see that he was just, it's kind of like almost like an athlete or a runner when they hit that wall and it's just like it's over, and you could see that in his face. And I looked at him once again. I said, "What happened? Who did this? Who shot you?" And now he's looking at me, so we're looking at each other in the eyes. And this is kind of the first time he's even acknowledging my presence. And he looked at me, and I could tell he was getting the breath together to tell me. And he looked me right in the eyes, and we looked at each other, and he said, "Fuck you." And he said it just like that, with the emphasis on that F to really let me know. That's how he felt. So he said that, and right after he said it, he just started gurgling, and you could tell he was in bad shape, and his eyes, he's starting to lose consciousness then, and his eyes roll back. And as it turns out, that would be his last conscious moment. His last words.
So take a look at a real live nigga that's crazy and get ready to die low.
Any last words?
Before your ass gets smoked, it ain't a joke, because my pockets is broke, my friend. That's why I gotta do you in. Give up your ends and your gold and your brand new Nikes and anything else I might like. And then I'm off in the wind again. So get your next sucker slipping, take it to the chin. I'm on a roll.
2 niggas in one night.
Didn't even have to fight. Just pulled out my 9 to end another's life. That's real life, so forget the silly shit you heard. Now nigga, tell me,
Do you have any last words?
How are you doing physically?
I feel that the last word is always God. But Pac saved my life. The reason why I say Pac saved my life, I got shot in the head, got grazed some other places, but I still got the bullet in my head. It's still there. But for as trying to get him to the hospital, didn't make me realize that I was shot. Because usually when you get shot in the head, the first thing the person do is panic. Bam, I'm shot in the head, I'm about to die, And once you do that, you can't drive nowhere. My whole thing was, he was shot. I'm like, you shot? I'm gonna get you to the hospital. I'm driving, telling him I'm gonna get to the hospital, kick back. Pac looked at me and said, you know what? You need the doctor more than me. You the one shot in your head. And we laughed the whole time going to find out went to the hospital. That's the conversation we had. It wasn't, Pac was a man the whole time. It wasn't that he was like, oh, I'm shot. He cracking jokes. He like, yeah, they shot me. He said, but you shot in your head. Look at your head. Your head bleed. Look how much it's bleed. That was Pac. And I'm like, man, shut up. I'm going to get you to the doctor.
So he was conscious on the way to the hospital?
He was conscious on the way to the hospital. He was conscious in the ambulance. He was conscious after they did the surgery.
What was the last thing that he said to you?
They love me.